What is up, my entrepreneurial friends? Today, we're going to be deep diving into the holistic approach that you can take to reveal an extra 100,000 to a million into your business over the next 180 or so days. Now, I know that that sounds like a big claim, and that can sound like a very clickbaity claim. However, there's a truth that's going on in business at the moment that allows this to be so. And that is the fact that we're living in an era of immense polarity. So what that means for you is we're living in an era where businesses are fucking sinking left, right, and center and really, really struggling. There are a lot of businesses out there that are in complete desperation mode and they're sinking and they're doing it really, really, really tough through all sorts of different industries. And the reason, without going into a completely different video, the reason that this is occurring is because the collective consciousness is going through a developmental leap right now. We are approaching the peak of the information age, and with that comes the break of the information age, and there's a big question mark as to what's next. So a lot of polarity ends up happening in these times. On one end of the coin, a lot of businesses simply dissolve. They cannot do it. They do not break through to the next phases. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you get businesses, like I'm going to share some of my clients in a moment, you get businesses that thrive at ridiculous rates, and they're able to pull off things that are out of this freaking world. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And this is what I'm going to be walking you through today. And the gap in the middle seems to be getting more and more narrow. There are less and less businesses doing okay and chilling out and slowly growing. It seems to be that there is a violent curve in the direction of the business. For some businesses, it's a violent curve up, and for other businesses, it's a violent steep curve down. So with that in mind, I firstly want to allow you to breathe a sigh of relief if you're experiencing this polarity. It's totally okay. It is merely the times that we are in. And it's, as someone myself who wants to take a lot of responsibility and a lot of ownership, I can at times beat myself up for looking at the way of the world. But I feel as though denying the way of the world is like denying the fact that it's winter. It's fucking cold, and it doesn't matter how beautifully you look at it. You can look at winter very beautifully, but it doesn't change the fact that it's cold. And similarly, we can look at the times that we're in right now and we can look at them as a beautiful opportunity, but it doesn't change the fact that the times are the times. So if you haven't fallen into the vibe of this already, we're going to take this slow and we're going to take an integral, a holistic approach to how you can shift to the opposite side of the coin, to the side of the coin that's thriving. Because as I was alluding to earlier, I work with about 2 to 3 clients, one-on-one clients at any point in time. And the last 3 clients I've worked with, one has scaled from less than 100 grand a month to over 600 grand a month. And they did that in about 90 days. Another client that I've just immersed with that I'm going to be going into detail on in this video, he has gone from about 18 grand a month to completely flipping everything on its head, doing 40 grand within a day, and then now has done just shy of $100,000 in 45 days, right? So when this shift occurs, and this is the invitation for you too, is this video is going to be an invitation into this shift so that you can start understanding what's involved in producing similar results for yourself. Now, before I get into it, I want to get this out of the way right now. I'm going to share within this video as holistically as I possibly can. I'm going to be as detailed as I possibly can. I am not going to hide any secret source. However, as you'll start to realize through this video, a lot of what needs to shift isn't just a change in your thought, but an experiential shift within your being. And what you may find by the end of this video is you may see the path so clearly, and you may decide, I've got to work with this individual. I've got to work with Tom, and we've got to do this together because I'm done being on this struggling side of the coin, or potentially not even struggling, but just this constant tension side of the coin in my business and in my life. And I'm ready for this wholeness. I'm ready for this integral approach. So if that speaks to you, I'll get this out of the road right now so it's done. Simply book a transformation call below. All right, we'll jump on a call together. It's not an upsell call. It is a call for us to really do some deep work together. And then you can go on your way from there. All right, so let's get into this. So I'm going to use this example again of this client who was generating, at best 18 grand a month in their business. And while keeping respect to this client, I'll keep things a little bit confidential, but this individual is, I'll say, a health coach of some capacity, right? And we recently dived deep into a year-long one-on-one container together. And we started off this container with an immersion in person, and we completely blew everything apart. Okay. And then within hours after that intensive, hand on heart, within hours after that intensive, this individual went on to generate 40 grand in sales and has continued to generate more 20s, more 20K, more 20, and we're just shy of 100 grand. In fact, I've got a message off him right now. We could be this fucking close. Okay. So I'm going to share with you what we did, what we actually did together, and what the integral approach looked like. And my hopes for you is that by the end of this video, you'll understand the essence of what needs to transform in order to produce similar results, or else the chances are extraordinarily high that you're simply going to sit on that other side of the coin in this constant battle with this polarity that's going on right now. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, the first thing that we need to take a look at is we need to take a look at where businesses are at right now and what's occurring for businesses right now that's keeping them in this place of immense tension. And the number one thing that's happening with business owners at the moment is they're sitting in complete overwhelm and complete solidified evidence of how things are. Because what ends up happening is when you go about your business and you build a successful business, right, or you build a level of success in business, what most people miss is the dangers of that. Because what happens is you build a level of success, but that success now becomes a rigid belief system of how things are. So we then fall into the illusion of believing that, this is the way things are. This is how things work. This is how things don't work. This is how I coach my clients. This is what my clients will receive. This is what they will object to. This is what they will pay. This is what they will not pay. This is how much support they require. This is how much support feels like an under support for them. Whatever it is, we build this entire construct in our mind that is simply just that. It's simply a construct. It's not real. It's not reality. And then outside of that, if we're consuming, as I mentioned, we're in the information age, we have such an overabundance, such an excess of information on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, podcasts, different coaches that we're working with, different courses that we're watching, different people that we're modeling, different gurus, different books. There is so much information that leads us to a point of complete overwhelm of what it is that we actually want. So, for example, lemon and Himalayan salt, by the way, that's all, and water. For example, we have so many individuals at the moment that they might be running a successful business, but their calendars are full, their soul is dry, and they're completely fucking stressed out with what it is that they're doing. I've got individuals that are doing $1 million a year through coaching businesses, and they're on the phone to me like, fuck, if I don't get things sorted this month, I'm broke. Because their expenses are through the fucking roof. So what the fuck, right? So what ends up happening is they end up in a state of complete overwhelm. They're searching for the next answer, for the next answer, for the next answer, for the next answer. Perpetually doing everything they can to try and get out of where they are. But what they're missing is what that is doing to themselves. They're missing what running their current business is doing to them. Let me ask you this. Have you ever pondered what running your business is doing to you? To you as a self, as a mind. Have you ever pondered what it is doing to you? Is it expanding you? Is it widening you? Is it calling you into more and more possibilities, or has it led you to contract? Has it led you to become anal? Has it led you to seek the answer and try and find the next thing and to be in a constant, rigid, contracted state of fear? Because if it has, we need to respect how that is altering our brain, how it is altering our minds, how it is altering the way we perceive everything. Everything. To go a step further, we end up in a paradigm where we cannot see out of the lens that we're in. This is the business, this is what's going on, this is the way the world works, this is what the coaching industry is, this is what business is, this is reality, and we're stuck in it. And this is why we ran an event called Exit the System, meaning exit the system that you have trapped yourself in. One of the biggest dangers too is that as entrepreneurs, we think that we're the breaker of systems. But often what happens is we break the 9-to-5 system only to end up in the entrepreneurial matrix, right? So what we first need to do, and what I first did with this individual, is we first need to transition from a place of noise to a place of complete stillness. Why? Because your brain will begin to operate completely differently when we enter this phase. Now, this is really important because in today's era, everyone wants to rush towards the result. But the funny thing about this is that since the rhythm of today says rush towards the result, go, fast. The funny thing is that that's the thing that fucks everyone. The message of the world is speed. The message of the world is rush. The message of the world is Tom's taking too long to get to the point on this video. I better go do this thing that's more productive. The way of the world is speed at the moment. But people don't understand that the way you stand out from the world is you be the contrast to what's going on. I invite you, if you want to make any significant shift in your business, whether your business at a financial level is fucked at the moment and just not moving, or you're exhausted from being continually right on the edge treading water, or your business is making shit tons of money, but you've got all of the emptiness, you've got all of the stress, all of the pressure, all of the grayness that has come with it. Regardless of that, I invite you immediately to slow down and to come back to a place of regulation. Now, this has been my invite to multiple clients. I've had multiple clients that have come into our events and they're just absolutely fucking frantic, and they're like, yeah, but I need the marketing system, but I need a way to be able to like scale this automation so that I can actually have, and they look like fucking junkies. Like, respectfully, they're so jacked up. Their nervous system is so jacked up, and they think that the system or the automation is going to set them free. But that's exactly like a drug addict thinking that the drug will set them free. No, you need space from it. And you will likely fall into the belief of pressure financially, because that's also the world's game. The collective's game right now is breaking free from financial pressure. So you'll feel the financial pressure, and that will seduce you into moving fast, and not slowing down and not regulating. But if we do not slow down and we do not regulate, we're simply going to build a foundation upon neurosis. And a foundation built upon neurosis, a seed planted in toxic soil, will only build a neurotic reality, a toxic reality. We plant the seed in the toxic soil, the fruit might look amazing, but it fucking kills us when we eat it. So we first need to slow down massively. Now, I said this to this client leading in to our time together. Oh, what do you want me to do to prep for it? I want you to do fucking nothing. I want you to read the Tao Te Ching. And I don't want you to just read the Tao Te Ching. I want you to meditate on it. I want you to slow every fucking aspect of your life down. But do you see your own objections as I'm saying this? Do you see your own objections coming through that are just like, yeah, but what do I do tactically in business? We will get to that, but you are eons away from that if you have an impatience for that. There's your paradox. The more impatient you are around it, the more I know you need it. So we slow everything down. Then I immerse with this individual. We drive for hours through the mountains. And then we walk through nature for hours. We walk through the mountains for hours and we don't chat business. Why? Because I know we need to eradicate the noise and come back to harmony with nature. Come back to stillness. Take a deep breath. Step out of your business. For how long, Tom? Well, let me ask you this. If I could show you not just how to generate an extra 100 grand in the next 90 days, but if I could show you how to do that with zero compromises, meaning it's the most effortless 100 grand you've ever fucking done. It's with absolute dream clients. It's with the most enriching processes you could imagine. And most of it's generated while you're out surfing or hiking the mountains. Think of it, feel it, right? If you could have that reality, if you could experience that reality where you're generating an extra 100 grand in the next 90 days, how long would you slow down for beforehand, if required? Is a day of complete stillness too much to ask? Is 2 days? Maybe you need to take 30. Maybe you need to slow the fuck down for 30 days. Probably won't take that long, but would you? We need to ask the real fucking questions here, guys. Like, what are you prepared to do in order to actualize what you're after? Because haven't we already been through the paradigm where like, oh, we're happy to work like a fucking dog for 10 years. Okay, you happy to be still like a fucking monk for 10 years? Now, I say that with a laugh because I don't believe in a passive approach. My philosophies aren't a philosophy of complete non-action. But what if what you're needing more than anything is to come back to your center first? And I don't know how long that takes. It depends how long you've wound yourself up for. It depends how overstimulated you are. It depends how conditioned you are to your neurotic dopamine-seeking mind. It's the truth. I had this awareness about 3 months ago. I had this sudden awareness of just how addicted I had become. Just how fatigued I was. And of course, it came at the time where cash flow was dry. So there's even more of a fear of like, I can't afford to be sitting on my ass. I can't afford not to be, is the truth. Now, as I'm moving through this as well, I want you to recognize what comes through for you. If money, fear comes through for you, pause this video and in a new tab, open up our fear of finances video. It's a deep dive video here on YouTube. Open up that video and watch it. Maybe I'll link it here, maybe not. If not, click the channel, go find that video and then come back to this one. Because until you allow yourself to overcome your fear and your addiction and your slavehood to money, until you overcome that, it'll consistently control you. Consistently control you. It's probably doing it right now. The impatience, probably fear, probably related to money. Just enjoy this video. Just enjoy slowing down. Allow yourself to enjoy it. You deserve it. Now, the next step is I now have a deeply regulated client. Okay? My client's now deeply regulated. Fear has dissolved. We had to work through some significant stored traumas and fear around finances. And we did that work together. Now, these are the processes and the exercises and the releases that we did in order to move this forward. This is not the space to go into that. But we worked through those exercises together. If you and I need to do that, book the call. We worked through these exercises together and we then got to a point where I asked him to put his entire business aside. Put the whole business aside for a moment. And I invite you to do the same thing. Put the entire way that it runs aside. Now, I want you to be honest with yourself around what would be the most magnetizing, the most soul-enriching offer you could possibly imagine. Put aside all of the bullshit and just ask yourself, if you could snap your fucking fingers, wave a magic wand, what would your offer look like? What would the essence around your business, the way in which it runs, your daily life, if you could, boom, click your fingers, manifest it, what would it look like? And this individual's like, I'd stop doing fucking coaching calls online all the time and doing this, and this. And I'd get in the flesh with people and I would blah, 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 blah. And he listed it. Okay, so that's your diamond. That's your creme de la creme. Now what are the buts? Oh, well the buts are that, like, if I was to create an offer like that, I'd have to charge like 20 grand for it. Because it would be a lot of this and a lot of that and a lot of this, and people wouldn't pay that much money. Oh, and if I created this, then surely it can't be that easy. Surely I wouldn't be able to just have people that can pay this because people already have a hard time paying that, and etc., etc., etc. So then this is the second step, is we're now looking at what are all your beliefs? And it's all they are. Oh, clients wouldn't afford that. That's a belief. Oh, there's no one out there that would want to deep dive this deep. That's a belief. What we started to then do is we started to then on the whiteboard write down all his objections toward his ultimate dream. Because this is the thing, most people don't allow themselves to dream their ultimate dream because their objections are in the way. Hell, most people don't even get to the point of dreaming because they're too caught up in the noise in the first place. Dream it, write down the buts, and now we go to alchemy. Now we go through the process of turning our darkness into gold. So now I'm working with him around alchemizing those belief systems, shifting it up, completely reprogramming the way he is seeing his offer. Because the truth is, and he's experiencing this now, whether it's a 20K offer, a 50K offer, or a 100K offer, I couldn't believe I'd be selling $100,000 programs, but I am. It doesn't matter what it is. There is an audience for anything because we live in an infinite universe. And if you can provide the value, and if it is a fucking no-brainer for someone, they pay. It's as simple as that. If you can provide infinite levels of value, if you can provide 10 times the amount of value, then the investment makes there's no reason not to do it. If I've got $100,000 offer that is helping people make millions, what's 100 grand? If someone's got an offer for health that's 50 grand and it completely changes the entire trajectory of the rest of their fucking life, what's 50 grand? Now, some of you might go, I just can't see how that could be. I just can't. I know. I understand that you cannot see. I understand that you cannot see. You're too dysregulated, and then even if you are well regulated, you've got your belief systems in the way that need to be alchemized. You've got all of these people's voices in your head, past clients in your head, past experiences in your head that need to be alchemized. Imagine if you grabbed my mind, chucked my mind in your body. Do you reckon I could sell it at 50K? Of course I could. Of course I could. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the only difference is the self that is actually living out this life. That's the only difference. And it's that self that when transformed, when shifted, is then capable of putting the next stepping stones in place, which we're going to get to. So then what ends up happening is we've gone from this dysregulated, saturated with information self to a calm, slow, patient, wise self that isn't just addicted to information, but he's actually sitting in wisdom. And this self has now clearly identified what it is after and has also honored, respected, and alchemized their objections toward. Now they're in a position where there is the golden offer. They're in a place where they're saying, this is exactly how I want my business to operate. This is exactly how I want it to work. No buts. This is exactly how I want it to happen. Now, no buts. Part of exactly how this individual wanted things to operate is this individual found out that they didn't want to run Instagram. And they didn't want to be on Instagram all the time. It felt demagnetizing to them. It felt like a level of, a lack of integrity to try and just play this algorithm game again and again. And this is where I'm going to start stretching beliefs even more. But this was his truth. He's like, in a dream world, I wouldn't even be on fucking Instagram or Facebook. Okay, but I have to generate leads. And? Well, how the fuck am I going to generate leads, Tom? Well, let's work through exactly that. And let's alchemize this belief that if you don't use Instagram, you won't get leads. This is deeply rooted in FOMO, hey? On a fear of missing out on opportunities, huh? Okay, this is deeply rooted in this, hey? Well, if we completely transformed that, and we had a reality that was everything you wanted, no buts and no compromises, who would you be as a man? If you allowed yourself to really claim what you're after, who would you become as a man? What kind of man would you be? He's like, I'd be a fucking king. I'd be really fucking truly convicted. And this leads us to the next step. Down the middle of this board, I've drawn a shitty attempt, but I've drawn an attempt of a river. And what you need to understand is the fact that the thing that your audience is looking for at the moment in 2025 is they're looking for trust. That's the thing. It's the thing that they're looking for. They don't give a fuck how smart you are, how smart you show yourself to be, because they're aware that most of this shit these days is just written by ChatGPT anyway. Like, let's be fucking real. People aren't as dumb as some people seem to think they are. Oh, there goes my tea. People aren't as dumb as people seem to think they are. So what ends up happening is we then get in a position where everyone's on Instagram and Facebook and social media and all of this sort of shit, and they're just spitting out all of this sort of stuff. But the marketplace, the audience is like, who do I actually fucking trust? Who's real? Where's the realness? Because I see this real smart person saying these smart things, and I see this real seductive person saying these real seductive things, and it's nice, but like, who do I fucking trust? And I'll tell you who the audience trusts. There's one person the audience trusts. And that's the individual that doesn't take fucking compromises. That's the individual who stands still in who they are. And it's like, this is me, I'm not playing your game. This is me. I'm not doing a single thing I don't want to be doing because I cannot be bought. What do you trust? Do you trust the person that can clearly be bought? And what I mean by bought is, do you trust the person who's prostituting themselves into producing in certain ways to get attention, to get likes? Do you trust the person who's wearing a mask just so that they can get a result? Do you trust that person? Of course not. The person you trust is the individual who will not sell a slither of their alignment, a slither of their integrity for a temporary result, or even a long-term result for that matter. So what you need to understand is that you are a magnetic individual. This is the first thing that people miss about marketing. This is top of the river, top of the stream principles, which is that you as a human are the magnet. You as a human are the magnet. And Instagram's great, and Facebook's great, and YouTube's great, and all this stuff's great. But at the end of the day, all of that is a way for somebody to come in contact with the magnet, which is you. It's a way for somebody to see someone's level of magnetism, level of life force, level of excellence. And if your magnetism, your life force, your exuberance is being limited, is becoming demagnetized, and you're feeling inauthentic, and you're feeling masked because you're puppeting along to a game that you don't want to actually play, then no one will fucking trust you. If you're doing something that is built on your, but I have to, but I've got to be on social media and do this, but I've got to speak like this, and I've got to watch the trends, and I've got to play the marketplace, and I've got to use AI, and I've got to this, and I've got to that, but inside you're out of alignment with it, people can fucking tell. Okay? People can tell. And as I said at the very start of this video, we're in a space of polarity. You've got people that are thriving, people that are absolutely struggling. You've got people that are absolutely disconnected as fuck and cannot tell the greatest mask ever worn from a real individual, right? That's on one end of the spectrum. People that are so fucking disconnected and so unaware that they cannot tell that this individual is clearly just wearing a mask. But then on the other side of the spectrum, people are becoming insanely aware, which means that they can detect instantly whether you're in your truth or not. So coming back here, this individual's like, I don't want to be on Instagram anymore, but I don't know where the fuck I get my leads from. Instagram makes me want to vomit. And this is just for him. There's nothing wrong with Instagram. I hope you understand this. There's nothing wrong with any one of these things. Some people might be like, I don't want to be on YouTube anymore. It makes me want to vomit. Well, then they shouldn't be on YouTube. And for me, I don't want to be on Instagram. I love being on YouTube. This individual, he's like, I don't want to be on Instagram anymore. Makes me want to vomit. Instantly, I'm like, well, you can't be on Instagram. Well, you can't be. Why? Because that's a lie. For you to now be on there, that's a lie. And what's happening is for you to be on there, you're then creating toxicity in the water. So you're on Instagram and you're doing these things and you're operating in these ways. That's just one example from marketing is Instagram. Another example could be the types of clients you're working with. The audience that you're working with doesn't light you up. But you're targeting them because you don't believe that you could work with this level of client because they wouldn't work with you. The way that you're charging X for your offer, but it feels like an undervaluing of who you are, but you couldn't charge this because no one would pay it, right? Whatever it is, you're sending toxicity down the stream, okay? You're sending you're poisoning the river, and then you get down to the bottom of the river into the more tactical questions like, hey, what sort of content should I create? But I can't answer that question for you. Why? Because at this point, now that we're downstream, it doesn't matter what content you create. It doesn't matter what ads you run. It doesn't matter what funnel you have because you've poisoned the stream all the way down so that by the time they see you on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, in your emails, through a funnel, through ads, in person even, they're detecting the fragmentation that you've done to yourself. So what's the point? And at very best, here, downstream, we're talking about ways that we can purify the toxic water. It's starting to rain, so we'll see how we go getting through the last part of this without wrecking my camera. So to wrap this up and to give you a holistic understanding, what is happening again and again is we're not just solving tactical, quick components for our clients. That's not how we're getting the results we're after. That's not how we're getting those results. Those results don't come by changing your tactic or changing the type of content that you're after. You might get a slight increase, and over time you might slowly figure out your marketing. But when we completely shift things from the top of the stream, and in the top of the stream we add absolute magic, then by the time we get downstream, it is just amplified and amplified and amplified. So what happens is, instead of being in this rigid fucking mind where we're really addicted to the bottom of the stream and we're really addicted to what tactics we need to use and what content we need to create and whether we need to run this ad and the funnel and all these things and how we're going to actually shift things and create the system so that we can scale, etc., etc., we're in contraction. We're in contraction. Versus, we let go. We slow everything down. We fully ask ourselves what we're after. We allow our butts to come up, but we don't allow our but to change what it is that we're after. Because most people do that. They go, oh, I'd like this, but I guess I have to settle on this. Oh, I like this thing, but really, like, people aren't paying for that. People can't afford that, so therefore I'm doing this instead. And now they're just back to the start. You're back to step one. You've fallen into the noise again. So without compromise, what do you fucking want? Write out your objections to that and go through the processes to alchemize them. Move through them. Shift them. Then you'll have a clear map of exactly what you want with zero buts, zero compromises. And this should also include the lifestyle that you're after. The lifestyle, the way in which you choose to experience. These clients that I've told you examples of, they're saying to me, they're like, yeah, the money's great, but the funny part about it and the best part about it is, like, I'm fucking surfing every day, going out for like 2 hours, reading a book, having a coffee, sending a few messages, hanging out with someone in person that's a client apparently, but they kind of feel like a fucking brother, and I'm transforming their lives for like a couple of hours, and it's effortless as I basically just hang out with them and be myself, and then I go home and, like, that's my day done. That is your life without compromises. Then you stay sitting in your true self. Then we start marketing. Then we start creating with the question of, what do I want to do? How do I wish to market? What would be the most amazing way and the most fun and the most exuberant way that I could possibly do this? And another client, for example, is like, yeah, I just film videos at the beach or just like hang out. And me, for example, just like filming them under the willows with my tea that I've spilt. That was fucking funny. And this is my life. It's the life I've created. And I've asked myself, how do I want to market? And I've said, YouTube. Like, I'd like to do long form videos like this. Then you ask yourself, okay, and then how do I get them to work? Sure. But you only ask that a little bit, because here's the last little truth just on that as well. I'm almost going to contradict myself here. Do you think the greatest greats, do you think the greatest all-time greats, do you think that they sat there obsessing over, how do I make this work? How do I make this work? How do I make this work? I'm not just talking the biggest business influencers of the world. I'm talking like Carl Jung. You reckon Carl Jung sat there being like, how do I get more book sales? Do you reckon Ken Wilber, when he developed his systems, do you reckon Paul Chek, do you reckon a lot of the greats, do you reckon they sat there being like, how do I get this thing to go viral? Full stop. And if you think that they did ask that question from time to time, like how often do you reckon they really focused on that versus focusing on mastery and allowing themselves to fall into the art form of creation? And regardless of how it worked in the past, actually, regardless of how people did things in the past, it's 2025, which means trust is at an all-time low, which means trust is your greatest asset, which means that begging for attention, begging for the next solution, begging for the systems to work, begging, it ain't going to work. You're going to be on the opposite side of the coin. You're going to be one of the ones that sink. I hope this has been useful for you. If it has, watch it through again. There's a golden thread that lies through it, a message that isn't said, but is in between the words. And you'll hear it if you allow yourself to. I hope this has been useful. Please like, comment, subscribe. Leave us a comment below letting us know where you're at, and watch this video wherever the fuck it is. And I'll see you on the next one.